Hi all, welcome to Ranjit Anesthesia Academy. Today topic is going to be about perioperative right ventricular dysfunction. Let me start on an interesting note. According to Hindu mythology, Lord Shiva is one of the most powerful god on earth. He can do whatever he wants. Your left ventricle is very similar to that. Whenever we say ventricle or a cardiac function, we relate left ventricle to that. But we have to understand that Lord Shiva cannot execute his power unless Goddess Parvati say you can go ahead. So the key is with Goddess Parvati. Your right ventricle is exactly similar to Goddess Parvati. Unless the right ventricle is normal, the left ventricle can never be normal. With this background, let us go to a situation how you deal with right ventricle. Right ventricle, whenever we deal with the right ventricular dysfunction, it is a complex situation. You have to look whether the right ventricle was normal before and became abnormal in the perioperative period, or whether it was abnormal before and it is worsened during the perioperative period. We have to look at the pulmonary artery pressure, whether the left ventricle was normal or it is causing the right ventricular dysfunction, whether the lung was normal or abnormal. Coming to the respiratory parameter which significantly affects the right ventricle, we have to see whether the patient is on spontaneous ventilation or a mechanical ventilation, whether it is inspiratory stage or a expiratory stage. Coming to the volume, either it is high volume ventilation or a low volume ventilation, or is a pressure controlled ventilation or a volume controlled ventilation. And we have to look whether the patient is on PEEP or high PEEP or low PEEP, and we have to compare between volume controlled ventilation and a pressure controlled ventilation, not to forget the frequency of ventilation. Apart from that, various positioning like prone and supine can affect the right ventricle and whether it is a systolic or diastolic failure. So we have many factors to take into consideration when you are dealing with the right ventricle. In the next 25 to 30 minutes, I will be dealing with right ventricular physiology in comparison with the left ventricle. What is the various etiology and how is the pathology of the right ventricular dysfunction in the perioperative period, how you are going to diagnose apart from echo, and the most important thing is going to be the ventilation, how you ventilate a patient with right ventricular failure, and finally how you are going to manage right ventricular dysfunction. When compared to left ventricle, right ventricle is thin wall. The muscle mass is hardly 1/6 and the end diastolic thickness is 1/3. Significance of this statement is the oxygen requirement is going to be very low. Not only that, the right ventricle is supplied by all three major coronary artery. It receives continuous blood flow during systole and diastole, and there is extensive collateral vessels, and in addition it receives nutrient blood flow from the Tibicean veins. So it has an excess of supply and the demand is less. When your demand is less and supply is more, you are going to be in a luxury perfusion. But whenever you are in luxury perfusion, the problem is you can't withstand a slight insult. That is very true of right ventricle. So what happens? When the left ventricular pressure alters between 140 to 100, you can see the stroke volume is hardly halted. From 100 it comes to 90. But when you take the right ventricle, when the pressure increases from 20 to 30, you can see the stroke volume decreasing from 100 to 70. So the bottom line of this diagram is right ventricle never tolerates an increased pressure overload. Anatomically, right ventricle is semicircular serpentine compared to the circular shape of the right ventricle. So your cross sectional area is very less of the right ventricle when compared to the left ventricle. But what happens in PAH? It assumes a spherical shape, which means that your cross sectional area is going to increase and your demand supply ratio is going to be altered. Not only that, as the right ventricle enlarges, it pushes the septum towards the left side and compromising the function of the left ventricle also. So there is an inverse, you see the ejection fraction on the x-axis and the right ventricular work index on the y-axis. And if you see that as the stress index increases, your ejection fraction comes down. There is an inverse relationship between the ejection fraction and the right ventricular wall stress, and this wall stress depends upon the pressure, dilatation of the right ventricle and the wall thickness. As anything increases, your right ventricular ejection fraction is going to come down. This is a study which was done in 2006, where they looked at 300 patients who are waiting for heart transplant, and they looked specifically at the right ventricle. If the pulmonary artery pressure and the right ventricular ejection fraction is preserved, you can see the 5-year survival rate is around 60%. When one of this component, either the pulmonary artery or the ejection fraction is compromised, you can see the survival is almost very similar, because one compensates for the other and the survival is still around 60%. But what happens if both is compromised, pulmonary artery pressure and the ejection fraction coming down, you can see the survival drastically coming down. So, the right ventricle, what does it does? It takes the blood from the deoxygenated blood from the systemic circulation and gives to the pulmonary artery, gives to the left ventricle as a pure blood. So, all you need is a teamwork. Here, this is like the right ventricle and this is the pulmonary artery. In the perioperative period, it is a connection which matters. Okay, this coupling between the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery is what is going to determine the outcome of the perioperative right ventricular injury. So, as an anesthesiologist, we should balance the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery. So, what is the clinical definition of the right ventricular dysfunction? It is the inability of the right ventricle to provide adequate blood flow to the pulmonary circulation at a normal central venous filling pressure. But hemodynamically, there is going to be an elevated right atrial pressure or a right atrial pressure to a pulmonary capillary wedge pressure of 0.8, which is called the isolated RV failure, and your cardiac index is going to be low. So, what are the various etiological factors for failing right ventricle in the perioperative period? Your contractility might be affected, or there might be a pressure overload, or there may be a volume overload. Coming to the contractility, it might be due to an infarction in the perioperative period, or patient might have a right-sided cardiomyopathy or a right ventricular muscle mass injury. When you resect a right ventricle for approaching in tetralogy of Fallot, you might injure the right ventricle muscle mass. The pressure overload can be caused by severe sepsis or post-cardiac transplantation, pulmonary embolism, left-sided cardiomyopathy, mere institute of mechanical ventilation, left-sided valvular heart disease, pulmonary hypertension, pulmonary stenosis, your pericardial disease and ARDS. The volume overload can happen with a left to right shunt, tricuspid regurgitation, pulmonary regurgitation and adult congenital heart disease. These are the various etiological factors for causing perioperative right ventricular dysfunction. Coming to a few common clinical scenario, whenever you are doing a HOP cap, it might be due to an infarction in the right coronary artery, and air embolus is prone to get into the right coronary artery due to the anatomical situation of right ventricle being superior to the left coronary artery. So, whenever you release the clamp, air goes into the right coronary artery first before into the left circulation. Pre-existing pulmonary hypertension, the mere institution of cardiopulmonary bypass can affect the right ventricle. Lot of case reports of protomin and right ventricular dysfunction is there. Exclusive use of retrograde cardioplegia where your right ventricle is not protected, and cardiac transplantation. These are the various scenarios where right ventricle can be injured. And coming to the pathophysiology, you have a high pressure in the right ventricle which increases the right ventricular stress, thereby your right ventricular output is coming down. As the right ventricle is enlarged, your septum is shifted towards the left and your left ventricular preload is also affected. As the right ventricular pressure increases, the coronary perfusion which was limited throughout the cardiac cycle will be limited now. So, RV ischemia will be ongoing. Not only that, there is a volume overload, so tricuspid regurgitation can happen and edema of all the organs can happen. This is the pathophysiology of failing right ventricle. So, how we are going to diagnose? This is a popular brand of ice cream. Everybody knows about Baskin Robbins. But what is the hidden information here? If you look carefully at the emblem, you can see 13 year, 12 year and 31 year. That is nothing but we have 13 ingredients, 12 colors, and to add it to make it into a 31 wonderful flavors. I personally like this brand because my name is incorporated into it. So, you have to look for some hidden information. Usually, diagnosing right ventricular dysfunction is very, very easy. You will be at the head end and you will be looking at the right ventricle directly on the surgical table. So, initially first at the biochemical parameters. Biochemical parameters are not very important for diagnosis, but it might serve as a prognostic indicator. Now, growth differentiation factor 15 and NT-proBNP are the main factors which determine the prognosis. Coming to the hemodynamic factors, you look at the right atrial pressure, pulmonary vascular resistance and right ventricular stroke work index. A new parameter which has come is pulmonary artery impedance, which is nothing but which integrates pulmonary vascular resistance and with pulmonary artery elastance, flow, pulse rate pressure and wave reflection. Personally, I don't have an experience with pulmonary artery impedance, but lot of studies have come that this might be more important than pulmonary vascular resistance to determine the right ventricular function. Coming to the echo parameters, you are going to look at the right ventricular ejection fraction, RA and R right ventricular and right atrial volume, your tricuspid regurgitation and the shift of the septum towards the left ventricle and the right ventricular systolic pressure, and you can look at the TAPSE to assess the right ventricular function. These are the MRI pictures of right ventricle. Here you can see the right ventricle is hardly half of the left ventricle. These are the MRI picture. As your right ventricular dysfunction happens, you can see the right ventricle size is increased and it is almost the size of the left ventricle. When it is almost the size of the left ventricle, it is moderate right ventricular dysfunction. When it is almost twice the size of the left ventricle, it is severe right ventricular dysfunction. Here you can see the right ventricle has enlarged more than the left ventricle. Here you can see the right ventricle is double the size of the left ventricle. So, your TR sets in and this is severe right ventricular dysfunction. If you take the echo, here you can see the right ventricle being smaller than the left ventricle. Here the right ventricle is almost equal size of left ventricle, which is moderate right ventricular dysfunction. Here you can see the apex is formed by the right ventricle and the right ventricle is bigger than the left ventricle. That is severe right ventricular dysfunction. So, now that we have diagnosed right ventricular dysfunction, what we are going to do now? First and most important thing is going to be the ventilation. This is a famous picture of Aristotle and Plato. Both are disciples of Socrates. But if you look at the picture carefully, they never get along. He points towards the sky, he points towards earth. He holds the books vertically, he holds the book horizontally. He wears a scarf around the shoulder, he wears around the neck. So, they never get along, but they have the same principle in mind. Similarly, the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery and the ventilation never get along, but the purpose is you have to put the blood into the pulmonary artery. So, how we are going to do it? So, the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery has a coupling mechanism which is low pressure and high flow generator. But once you institute a mechanical ventilation, what is going to happen? There is going to be a pulmonary hypertension and a systemic hypotension which is going to affect the right ventricular oxygen supply and demand. So, if the pressure is going to be the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery isovolumic pressure, if it is around 25 to 40, it is fine, below which right ventricular ischemia might happen and acute right heart failure might happen. So, let us look at the various parameters used in the mechanical ventilation. Let us look at the tidal volume. At a tidal volume of around 300 ml, you can see the difference between the right ventricle and pulmonary artery, nothing, hardly any difference is there. But as you increase the tidal volume, you can see the difference is increasing. The right ventricular isovolumic pressure changes, increases progressively as you increase the tidal volume. With the 800 tidal volume, you can see, with the 900 tidal volume, you can see the pressure changes so high. This type of changes will induce right ventricular ischemia. So, more the tidal volume, the more the ischemia is going to happen. Next come the most important parameter, PEEP. The PEEP is going to affect the right ventricle badly. How? Let us see. Where in the initial part up to 0 to 6, the right ventricular ejection fraction is hardly halted. But beyond 5, you can see the ejection fraction progressively coming down. Similarly, the end diastolic work index and the systolic work index, you can see up to 5 it is not altered much, but beyond 5 you can see a progressive increase in the work index. So, your right ventricle is going to struggle beyond a PEEP of 5 to 6. and your pulmonary vascular resistance. It proportionally increases with PEEP. So, summarizing all the here you can see the right ventricular end-diastolic pressure also progressively increasing with PEEP. So, to summarize all the findings, this was a study which was done around 30 years before. So, they said that the balance between the work index and the systolic pressure is maintained with the PEEP up to 15. Might be now I will take around a PEEP of 10. Up to PEEP of 10, the balance can be maintained. The slope of the curve will be maintained. But if the PEEP goes beyond 10, here it is written as 20. But if the PEEP goes beyond 10, the slope of the curve will be shifted towards the right, and the right ventricle is bound to struggle. Another important thing is the plateau pressure, your peak airway pressure. If the peak airway pressure goes beyond 25, you can see the mortality and the acute carpulmonale is very high. So, we have to ensure that the plateau pressure is maintained just below 25 centimeter of water. And coming to ventilation strategy, they tried on two type of strategy. One is a low pressure strategy and another two are the high pressure strategy, and they looked at the right ventricular and the left ventricular parameter. None of the left ventricular parameters were significantly altered, but if you look at the right ventricular parameters, all were statistically altered in the high pressure strategy. The two high PEEP strategy was associated with deterioration of right ventricular function. So, it is a pressure which is causing the problem. So, why can't we release the pressure? Then came the airway pressure release ventilation, which is the ideal mode of ventilation in patient with right ventricular dysfunction. Only few ventilators have that. It reduces the right ventricular afterload and increases the venous return, which is what required in right ventricular dysfunction. Usually, you can see some people whenever they have a right ventricular dysfunction, the anesthetist takes a bag in the hand, give a strong blow and suddenly release the valve. That is a form of a airway pressure release ventilation. Coming to prone positioning, definitely prone positioning unloads the ventricle, but in the perioperative period and cardiac surgery, it is going to be really difficult to put the patient in the prone position. So, it is a positive pressure which gives the problem. So, why can't we put on negative pressure ventilation? This was a study 20 years before, where the 3 patients of tetralogy of Fallot gave trouble with positive pressure ventilation, and by instituting negative pressure ventilation over a period of 48 hours, over a period of 12 to 14 hours, they were able to get the right ventricle functioning normally and able to wean off the ventilator. So, negative pressure ventilation can be helpful in right ventricular dysfunction. This was written again 20 years before. They tried all form of ventilation for right ventricle, like high frequency ventilation, inverse ratio ventilation, partial liquid ventilation, or extrathoracic negative pressure ventilation. But the statement, look at the statement, many of these options are worthy of consideration in the presence of severe right ventricular dysfunction, but evidence of improved outcome is lacking, which is true nowadays also. So, how you are going to ventilate the right ventricle? What is your summary of ventilation with right ventricle? Imagine this is the right ventricle and blood has to go through this into the pulmonary artery. Imagine the people are the persons who have to be transported to this road. If you have to transport 60 people to this road, imagine how you are going to do it. If you are going to use 60 cars to transport 60 people, this is what going to happen. This is your ventilation. If you ventilate with high pressure or high volume, this is what going to happen. You are going to jam the right ventricle. But if you are going to utilize a low pressure and a low volume strategy and you bring your PVR down, and this is going to be your strategy. If you transport 60 people by bus, that is the most effective strategy. Here you reduce the pressure, you reduce the volume and you transport smoothly. And if you are going to flex the muscle, like if you are going to add an inotrope which helps in the right ventricular function, it is like transporting 60 people in 60 bicycle. That is even better. This is a different form of ventilatory strategy with right ventricle. When it comes to transport, nothing can beat my hometown Chennai. This is a picture which was taken in 2016 floods in Chennai. what is so important in this picture is all modality of transport can be seen in a single frame, not to forget what is seen on the air too. So, to summarize ventilation with right ventricle, higher tidal volume and PEEP is going to increase your PA pressure and right atrial pressure, and it worsens your tricuspid regurgitation and your RV afterload is increased. Not only that, your PEEP is going to decrease your cardiac output by decreasing the venous return. So, you have to use the lowest tidal volume, lowest positive pressure and lowest PEEP to provide adequate ventilation and oxygenation. Not only that, the lower tidal volume might decrease the cytokine induced endothelial dysfunction. Hypercapnia will increase your PA pressure and worsen the right ventricular function by causing pulmonary vasoconstriction. So, hypercapnia should be avoided. Hyperventilation on the other hand definitely decreases your PA pressure and also reduces the vasoconstriction. But remember, hyperventilation should not be performed at the expense of high tidal volume, because it might cause dynamic hyperinflation and your intrathoracic pressure will be increased. Then you have to monitor your airway pressure and flow time loop. Prone ventilation definitely unloads right ventricle but cannot be tried in the perioperative period. The effect of high frequency ventilation, high oscillatory ventilation on right ventricle are poorly defined, although it decreases the cardiac output. There is transient improvement of oxygen with recruitment maneuver, but what happens is there is decreased venous return and hypotension. So, if you are using a recruitment maneuver, you have to be extremely cautious and use only when significant hypoxemia is present. So, coming to the last part, management of right ventricle. Managing a left ventricular dysfunction is like life before marriage. There are plenty of options available. You can be successful, you can try many things, and most of the time you will be successful. But coming to right ventricle, it is like life after marriage. It is really strict. You have to be in a constrained environment. Whatever you do, it will backfire, and you have to be really careful when treating right ventricle. Coming to the principles of treating right ventricle, first and foremost is you have to optimize your volume status. Second is you have to make the right ventricle move well. Third is you have to resist the pulmonary vascular resistance, so the right ventricle is able to push the blood into the pulmonary artery. And the fourth principle is maintain the systemic vascular resistance well above the pulmonary vascular resistance. These are the four principles which we work on to treat the right ventricle. So, how you are going to achieve this? First, you have to improve the right ventricular function, and you should target any ischemia or arrhythmia has happened. You should be aggressive to counter this ischemia and arrhythmias. Third, if the left ventricle is causing the problem on the right ventricle, try to improve the left ventricular function. You have to look at the volume status. You have to look at the volume parameters like IVC diameter or stroke volume variation, and you have to minimize the inflammatory mediators release, and finally you have to go for lung protective strategies. These are the various things which you do to improve the right ventricular function. So, how you are going to achieve it? First, rhythm stabilization. You have to be aggressive in getting the cardioversion or starting an antiarrhythmics, so that the rhythm gets back to normal as early as possible. Next is improving your right ventricle. So, the first and foremost drug which we look at for improving the right ventricular function is dobutamine. Then we go with the inodilators like milrinone and levosimendan, which might cause hypotension. To counter that, we might add noradrenaline. Then the third part is going to be reducing the pulmonary vascular resistance by using inhaled pulmonary vasodilator or a intravenous pulmonary vasodilator. These are the three lines of drugs which you use when you deal with right ventricular dysfunction. And in case that doesn't work, then you go for a rescue therapy like atrial septostomy or a right ventricular or a RVAD, ECMO or cardiac transplantation. The third is going to be your volume. If it is hypovolemia, give a slight volume challenge, look at the various parameter and how heart is behaving, then give volume accordingly. If there is volume overload, go for diuretic first and start a ultrafiltration or CRRT at the earliest. Early institution of CRRT have shown to improve outcome in patient with right ventricular dysfunction. And the fourth one is going to be your etiology. Whatever the etiology is causing right ventricular dysfunction, you have to take care of it. For example, if sepsis is the cause, you have to treat accordingly, or a pulmonary embolism, unless you remove the emboli, it is not going to improve. And finally, lung protective strategy, where your volume is, tidal volume is going to be low, you have to minimize your PEEP, and you have to avoid acidosis, hypercarbia, hypoxia, which will increase the pulmonary vascular resistance. So, what is the future? This was written in 2006, but still holds good. The measurement and awareness of right ventricular dysfunction has not improved like left ventricle, and you have to investigate the mechanism and role of hypertrophy, because whenever right ventricle goes into hypertrophy, it is bound to fail. So, we have to work on the mechanism and role that is responsible for hypertrophy. What is the effect of pulmonary disease and left ventricle on the right ventricular function? And you have to create models of right ventricular failure. Lot of models for left ventricle is there, but the right ventricle models are very minimal, and look at a targeted therapy for treating right ventricular dysfunction. So, to conclude, for every successful man, there is a woman behind, but the phrase doesn't end there. Whatever to say, whatever you do is always wrong. See, she has achieved what she wants. She moved the man to that side to make him successful. Similarly, for every successfully contracting left ventricle, there is a right ventricle behind to say that if I am going to be affected, it is you who are going to be affected. Thank you. Take care of the right ventricle.